Welcome back to A Plus Parents, everyone. And it's so great when you get to work with a family that we've gotten to work with as a math family, and now mom, as math family kids are getting older and graduating on their own. Mom has started her own business, and inside of her business, she's really looking at health and wellness. So I'm super excited today to have Monica Aviles with us. She lives up in the Tallahassee, Florida area. She's a mom of 6. She's been homeschooling for 20 years, right? So she's a veteran in homeschooling. And it's interesting because, she looked at, while she's got 2 graduated and 2 in high school and 2 in middle school, it's quite a combination of young people, right? That one of the things as the kids are getting older, they become more independent. Monica's an avid learner. And so she looked at how can she best model for her own family by then looking at, well, what's next for her as she has more time and what can she do? So she's got the entrepreneurial spirit, but what she took on was learning about health and wellness. And so she works with a company that is called Plexus Worldwide. So I want to make sure I said that right. We'll have the link in the show notes. You can find out more about what Plexus Worldwide is, and you're going to find out more about it as we're talking today as well. But if you think about all the things that are out there and you look at health and there's so much out there about health and what works and what doesn't work. And there's always something new, and the next new thing is kind of coming along. But it sounds like what Plexus Worldwide has done is they focused on an area that's really important to the body. And you've kind of discovered that, Monica. So first of all, welcome to A Plus Parents. I'm super excited to have you here. It's so great because usually I just see the girls and then here you are, right? So that's right. Great.
Yes, Mr. D, thank you so much. You have played such an important part of our homeschooling, especially at the secondary level. You have saved me as a mom, but also just made math so much fun for our children. And I mean, each of them, the older 4, has been able to work with only you for math. And really, I mean, it's the reason that they are able to enjoy the subject. And whenever I told, for example, I told them I got to see you at the Florida Parent Educator Association convention,
right?
And I think they were all a little jealous. And I showed them the picture that I took.
That's right. We took a selfie. That's right. I remember. Yeah, that's so awesome. And you've got your oldest, he's traveling. He's a professional welder and he's on the road and doing his thing. So that's super cool. There's some math involved in that. So he's doing awesome. I'm very, very glad to hear that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yep. So let's start with, first of all, 20 years as a homeschool mom, right? Just a little bit about you, your background, and what have you noticed over the last 20 years in your homeschooling journey? Like things you've seen for yourself, things you've seen change in homeschooling. What have you noticed?
Well, let's see. We had never heard about homeschooling when my husband and I got married. We started homeschooling because we met some homeschooling families, and we just really enjoyed seeing the dynamic, the family dynamic. We enjoyed seeing kids act like kids and really enjoying not only being able to interact with kids their own age, but just the way that homeschooling children were able to interact with adults and just their maturity level. And so when we started, we thought, well, this allows us the opportunity to be able to learn with our children, to be able to invest in their character. And over time, we then started learning about, so we went from learning about the brain, like their development, their academics and character skills, to then their heart, being able to get to know our kids and see what they're passionate about. And most recently now, the connection between the gut and learning. Over the last 20 years in homeschooling, I would say that there is definitely, it's been more acceptable to homeschool. There's less kind of like raising of the eyebrows. You still get, the most common question would be, well, what about socialization? But definitely a lot of different types of communities, whether it be kind of the more unschooling or just more involving nature. But then, of course, it's just a whole gamut. I mean, over the last 20 years, we've seen it just grow to the point where if you don't say no, you'll never actually be at home, because there are so many different kinds of groups and activities to participate in.
Right. Oh, that's funny. I was just talking with a group of moms yesterday, and that was one of the things that came up. They were like, how do you decide what to say no to? Because everything seems like something you want to do, and there's so many options and opportunities out there. So that becomes a skill set, and which is actually great, because then we can pass that on to our kids about learning to say no when it's appropriate to say no, and yes when it's appropriate to say yes. So again, a great life skill that we get to do as well. Okay,
Absolutely.
so you mentioned gut health, right?
Yeah.
So first, tell us what is gut health? What does that mean? And then, you've been working with this and studying it, and now you represent a really great product that works on gut health. So what is it? And then how did you become qualified in that area?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Plexus Worldwide is about 15 years old, and it is a company that focuses on restoring the balance to your we think of the digestive tract really just more having to do with digestion and when you eat, but it also serves as a barrier. And so when you have that barrier compromised, what ends up happening is that you have a laundry list of issues that start to arise. And my husband and I, just a little backstory, my husband and I both have allergies. We both have asthma, and like funny little things, I guess. We thought, oh, we both need glasses. We both needed braces, like just different things. We never really thought much about it. But then when we had our first child, we noticed that there was something like, we just noticed that even as a baby, he was very fussy, very gassy. And with each child, we had different health challenges. And so I guess what makes me qualified is more that I've been as a mom, we've gone to an array of doctors, and really learned that the expertise or the advice given by doctors really extends to just prescription medicines. And so you have very well-meaning doctors who have studied, but are equipped with only one kind of knowledge and information. Like that's the expertise. And so we had, children that we had each child. I mean, we've had in our family, I'll go into a little bit of detail, but we had we have children with asthma, with eczema, with allergies. We've had ulcerative colitis, gluten intolerance, just a whole host of different issues. And so over the years, I've tried to learn and educate myself. How can I help my kids be healthy, and how can I help myself to remain strong? And most recently, that led me to learn about a company that focuses on bettering the root of your whole body's health. So there is a connection between the gut and the brain. There's actually it's called the gut-brain axis, and there's communication that happens. And our supplements are geared to helping you restore balance in your gut so that your overall health and wellness, you can achieve your health and wellness goals.
Wow. Okay, you just made me think of something, right? It's just
Okay.
funny as you said that, because you kind of like, sometimes people say trust your gut, and
Yeah.
when they say that, right? And I never really put together that the gut and the brain are talking to each other. So that trust your gut actually really is interacting with the brain. There's some signal the brain had, and your gut says, wait, no, maybe not, or yes, do that, or that kind of thing. So trust your gut's real. That's not just
Yes.
an expression. That's a real thing.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
that's
And
awesome.
it's neat, I think that there's different cultures have different strengths and facets of information. And I have not, this is something that I just recently learned about, but it was just talking about maybe even like Eastern medicine and Eastern thinking, and how there's more of a focus on the gut there. And I thought, well, that's fascinating, but in our Western culture, it tends to be kind of more compartmentalized. And so
Right.
you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, well, I'm having sinus issues that has to do with my gut. You would just think, okay, this is my sinuses, and so I go to a specialist for my sinuses, or, if I'm having a different issue, I go to specialists for that, not really realizing the interplay and the connections that are really happening in your body.
Wow. Okay, you can sign me up now, because I've dealt with some sinus issues, and I just thought it was about my sinus, but maybe not. So, okay,
Yeah.
well, given that you've been researching this, studying this, and then watching your own children, like what have you noticed? Like what changes have you seen in your kids over the years as you've started working with them on getting their gut healthy?
Yeah, well, the neat thing is we have tried different things. We've tried with the older ones, it's a little bit easier because they're able to have a little more self-control. But with our oldest, for example, we tried a keto diet.
Mhm.
We've tried adding probiotics. We've tried doing things like bone broths, and none of these things are bad. But we were just reaching limited improvement. And so we started back on these supplements pretty recently, actually, just this year. And that was back in February. And when I started just myself and my son. So I started Johan, and he has really bad sinuses. And we have done different things. Like he's actually had his adenoids removed. He's got
Mm.
8 allergy shots. At one point, it was every Friday, 8 allergy shots. And so we stopped all of that, we have just focused on the probiotics. And what we've noticed, even just in a few months, is that actually one of his sinuses is opening up, which is so weird for him because he's like, is this what it feels like for air to pass through your nose? Like even
Wow.
something like that, where you just take it for granted. I mean, I take it for granted because I don't have that challenge. We've had improvements with attention, just being able to focus a little bit longer with the younger boys. I know a lot of this is there have been studies, for example, even with NIH, like if you Google NIH, and gut microbiome or mice studies, they've actually taken out the gut microbiome from some infants and put it in mice, and seeing the changes that happen to the mice and the brain of the mice. So you can Google this information. I mean, it's there, and a lot of it is correlated. I understand it's not cause and effect, but there are certain markers that are evident. And so one thing that I noticed with our boys, for example, is, well, the thing with homeschooling is it allows you to be flexible and not sit at a desk. So there are some things that I wouldn't necessarily notice right away anyways, because we don't have a desk here. We have a dining room table, and so, but I did notice, like, they're just a little bit fidgety. And so I thought, well, they're just boys. That's fine. But I think that also then I thought, well, that has to do with their food. I need to make sure that they're eating proper, and so for breakfast, I would try to give them some protein, but we have allergies. So the kids, my boys, can't have dairy or gluten, certain nuts. Like it just makes everything very challenging. No problem. We'll work around it. But what I've noticed is now with these supplements and then changing and adding in the supplements we have a protein shake, there's just less fidgetiness. And of course, that's anecdotal. I can't tell you what it's going to look like for each child, but I can say that in our family, that it's made such a difference that I'm very excited and encouraged, because otherwise we end up going to different healthcare professionals, and I could leave with 8 different prescriptions for one child alone. And so that just gets to be frustrating. And then, and we didn't get there overnight. Like it starts with 1 prescription and then 2 and then 3. But it's so encouraging because as what I've noticed is there is less dependence on even some of their medication related to their asthma. So it's been wonderful to not feel like I'm cornered, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So, yep.
Wow. That's amazing. It's great because you get to see it happen. So just, it's real. That's your own testimony at that point. So, there's the entrepreneurial side of this, right? So as
Yeah.
you got involved with, the Plexus Worldwide and
Yeah.
working with them, so obviously the supplements are working, but how else has being with a company like this impacted your family?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're a shining example of being entrepreneurial, because that's exactly what you've done. I mean, I remember when it was like, it wasn't a question, it was just like, Mr. D, but what time, right? And now we have different math teachers because
Right.
you've just grown and expanded. Like, what a blessing that is. And so as a mom, I wanted to make sure that whatever I do, the benefits of it stack. Like it has to add up and multiply. And so even with our oldest, for example, I wanted to do something where I would still be challenging myself. And instead of sitting back and kind of waiting for change to happen, because it's different, I still have younger ones at home, but now my older ones are leaving the house. And so how do I continue to be able to communicate with my older children and give them advice that's relevant and be an example to them? And so the only way I could continue to grow in the ways that they are being challenged. So they are going and they're having to interview and they're having to grow their skill sets and just create and be productive. And so as a basically with network marketing, because this is a form of network marketing, free enterprise. I mean, I haven't signed a contract. I work for myself. There's different challenges, right? Because what I would do for somebody else, I might not do for myself. So I have to block off time and see that as work and pursue that. But what I love about it is that everything that I'm learning, I'm able to take and talk to my kids about. So for example, as a mom, and I'm presenting our products, I'm simply the messenger. I'm not the message. And so I can tell my kids like, hey guys, I understand, right? You're auditioning for drama right now. And that you're very nervous about it, but you got to do it anyways,
Mm.
and you have to be able to be told no. You have to really realize that failure and success go hand in hand. They're not separate. Failure is a part of success. In fact, when you look at, those who have like Tom Brady, who have achieved so much in sports, I mean, they have very high failure rates, but it's actually the only way to success. And so, you as an entrepreneur know that
Lots
there's
of
challenges.
failures. Absolutely.
So, and I mean, like you get an email like, okay, maybe you opened up a new course, but there's problems that, with signing up or whatever it is. Well, but the fact that you're having new problems and new challenges is evidence that you're growing, because if you have the same problems and the same challenges, that means you're just trying to do the same thing the same way and hitting a wall. So, yeah, I mean, definitely there's, as a mom and being a mompreneur, which I've done different things before. It's just the community, it's the training, it's being a role model to our kids. It is also providing, instead of trying to always budget the bottom line and looking at the bottom line and staying within, it is, okay, how can we increase our top line? How can we create and you know, basically provide a different stream of income? So there's a lot of things that, I mean, listening also, being able to listen to a prospective customer and what are their challenges, what are their health goals, how can I help them?
Mhm.
And so all these skills that are coming into play really make this exciting for me, and I'm very much enjoying it.
Wow. There's a couple things you said. People always talk about looking at their bottom line. You know,
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
looking at your top line. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look there. What's my
Yeah.
top? Like, that's really, really interesting, right? And then mompreneur. That's such
Yes.
a great word. Oh my gosh, that's great. It's interesting because I actually saw, and I'll have to tell one on myself here. Let's see, it would have been when was this? 1980, probably 1981, 82, that time frame. So a long time ago, I was introduced to a company and they drew circles on the board. So I'll just leave
Okay.
it at that, right?
Yeah.
They drew the
Okay.
circles and they were like, and you can get all your home shopping products and everything you do. And I looked at that. And at the time I was 19, I was like, well, I don't need all that stuff and I'm not buying for a family. But I was so intrigued by the way that the business was run and how it was about sharing with people and how it was about getting trained and how it was about learning and growing and developing, that always stayed with me. And it was always something that, so when people are involved with the, whether they call it affiliate marketing or direct marketing or network
Yes.
marketing, all of those things, right? But there's just, I just think it's just an amazing way to find a product you're passionate about and get trained and then share with other people. But you really hit on something, because you're also noticing the training you're getting in how you can listen with your customers and objections in what's important to them, and that has to translate right back into being a homeschool mom and how you're working with your own kids about listening for what's working for them, what's not working for them, what's important to them, what their own learning style is, like their needs. So I'm just imagining that working inside of a paradigm, inside of a business model like this has got to be also, you're seeing some of those effects as a homeschool mom too. Do you notice that as well?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, certainly the learning is in the doing. You can't, it's learn, it's earn as you learn, right? And
Right.
yeah, and with our older two, I mean, I'm very thankful. The oldest two, they know how to think, right? They're not, we never focused on content for the sake of content. We focused on skills and using the content to develop skills. And that was one of the things that I so enjoyed about with them learning math through you. I mean, you explained it so well, but also you took them, right, and they had to come to you with the 4 basic applications like math, I mean, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and you took it from there. And they learned as they went, and I never did formal math with them. We just kind of developed math sense. And so it is learn as you do it, right? That's something that
Mhm.
they saw with math. What I noticed is that with our older two, there wasn't I didn't focus so much on entrepreneurial skills, because I mean, we were just focused on developing skills, but not really entrepreneurial skills. And so now we're learning, okay, well, now you're earning money. Well, what can you do with that money? Instead of just trading in time for money, what can you do? Where can you invest your money so that even while you're sleeping, your money's working for you, right? And
Mhm.
there's online courses that you may be sleeping, but if someone's purchasing your online course, then you're making money as you're sleeping, right? Your money's working for you. We have Mila. I would love for Mila one day, for example, to write a musical and for it to be on Broadway. Well, how is that going to work if she is uncomfortable? Like if she is a great employee and she maybe will be a great manager, but how can she go beyond that? And so being an entrepreneur, being a mompreneur now, that's one of the things that I am very much excited about. Johan wants to open up a zoo. Well, like, no, one zoo is not, we got to open up, we got to open up, let's do 2 zoos per continent. And so
Wow.
that's 12 zoos. How is that going to happen if you are not comfortable being told no? A righteous man falls 7 times, but we have to get back up. And my husband is very supportive, and we even started a separate thing this year. He was very much like, you're speaking to who? And so I'm like, Mr. D. And so, but he's a school psychologist, and he worked as a school psychologist, and just like his parents worked, his dad worked at one company for 30 years. His mom worked at another company for 30 years. And, retired from that company, but then we're having children in a time where that's totally changing. And so how can we adjust? And as parents, we're having to learn about things that we don't know about. We don't know about being entrepreneurs. So, he's very supportive. I'm learning, the kids are learning. They see me sometimes sit in front of the computer, and I'm about to do reach outs, and I'm like feeling a little bit, well, I am feeling very nervous. I'm nauseous. I'm like, I don't want to do this. They're going to tell me no, and literally, one of them will come up and be like, Mom, you've got this. You can do this. And so I figure if I can help them fail faster and fail forward, that they'll be able to achieve much more quickly than, it's not dependent upon me, but they'll be able to achieve and be more comfortable with things like this much earlier. And so they'll be able to make things happen sooner than if I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur.
Wow. Yeah. And there's phrases and words that you're using, and I can hear it, like fail forward, how that's exactly what we want to do. And how often we don't get the opportunity to model that ourselves. We
Yes.
can tell our kids that, well, this is what you should do. But if we can model it and actually let them see, wow, mom's going through this or dad is going through this, for them, it creates that sense, takes the fear away, because they're like, well, if my mom can do it, I can do it. So I love that.
Yep.
Okay. So, with gut health, let's get back to the gut health.
Yes.
So, it's looking at when there's like for young people, if they're dealing with attention issues, the fidgetiness, as you were saying before, or just memory. Oftentimes kids struggle with memory, or just how they can get, where they're taking knowledge and the step-by-step kind of that procedural knowledge base. How does gut health kind of work through all that? Because from what you shared with me about that, there is a procedure or kind of a sequence to that. So share a little bit about that, because I know for moms and dads that are listening, they might see a young person at home in their home and they deal with one of those things, or maybe more than one of those things. So just share a little bit about the gut health and how that could impact that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, definitely as a parent, we oftentimes get stuck, and certain behavior is due to, like, we think, oh, this behavior is tied to this, right? So this behavior of avoiding something or being easily distracted, it's because they're just being lazy, or they're not trying hard enough, or whatever it might be. And then what we come to realize, I've come to realize, is actually there is a whole physiological, I mean, there's something happening in the body. And so one of the major things that I've been learning more about recently is candida, and that's a fungus. It occurs naturally in our body, but what happens is, when there is too much candida in our gut microbiome, that causes a host of problems. And so candida can form it forms a shell of chitin around, and so you can't just kind of wash it out. You can't drink enough water. um I know it's very easy to think, oh, well, we'll eat organic, we'll do these things, but the problem there that I was running into is, well, not only the cost, but then also, if your body isn't able to properly digest those things because your gut microbiome is out of whack, then it's not a waste, but it's just not fully effective. And so with candida, for example, it can only digest simple sugars. So it literally will trigger a craving. And so you might have a child who, I know, right? You're just like, oh, they're just picky. They just like toast, or they just like juice and toast, maybe chips, or they just have a really big sweet tooth. And we think that that's just what they prefer. But actually, what's happening is that in their body, the yeast can only digest simple sugars. And so that's what it will trigger, is a craving for sugars. And the experiment that the study that I was referencing earlier about, they were infants where the gut microbiome was taken out and put in the mice. And then later on, many of them were diagnosed with ADHD, the infants. And so they went back and studied the changes in the mice, and they realized, like, something about the gray and the white matter in the mice brain was changing. And so there's a link between ADHD and the gut microbiome, because
Wow.
you have the yeast. Yeah, you have yeast, you have inflammation that's happening, that affects the barrier, the defense that the gut is supposed to provide, and it causes something called leaky gut. You have things passing through the intestinal lining that weren't supposed to pass through. And so you have allergic reactions that are happening, because something that shouldn't bother you is going through that, and your body is mounting a defense, a reaction to it. And so, we have a line of products. I mean, we have our cornerstone product this is one of the products in there, and this one has enzymes and which target the yeast, and it has good probiotics. And then we have this other product right here that works with this. This is BioCleanse. It helps wash out the harmful bacteria. And then we have our Slim Drink. None of these products are FDA approved. I will just say that neither is baby formula.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting.
I'm not necessarily with something being approved in that way. I don't know that means anything to me anymore, or not anyway, right? It's like,
Right.
I'm
So
interested in the research and what research is showing, not what somebody stamped an approval on, right?
yeah. And so by focusing on what's happening internally in our children, and because you have also like COVID affects the gut microbiome. There's been studies about that. There's
Mm,
been studies about stress, you know, energy drinks. Like there's all these things that are challenging the health of our gut microbiome. And what ends up happening is the bacteria that are not beneficial are the most resistant. And so when there's growth that's happening, they're growing faster in higher numbers. And so there's just an imbalance that's occurring. And I just find it so encouraging that there is an answer that because our students, if they, I mean, most kids want to be good, they don't want to get yelled at, they want to be good at things. And I just find it so encouraging that this is providing some answers so that I'm able to look at my student, I'm able to look at my children and realize, okay, I thought one thing, but now I'm learning something else, and I can allow them to grow and heal from the inside so that they're not as they get older, just facing more challenges along these lines with attention deficit, for example.
right. Wow. That's awesome. Well, if there's anybody who was listening and they're kind of like, why they should do this, I think you just answered that question. It's like, they definitely want to get more information. So, and I guess there's a couple, like they can reach you through your website. I'm going to, we're going to put it in the show notes, but if you happen to be listening and you're writing this down, it's my site, site.plexusworldwide.com/ and then for your name, Monica Aviles, it's Moni, MoniAvi. So it has it on there, but we'll put it in the show notes as well. So people they can use your site to get more information, to contact you if they want to set up a time to talk and find out what the best program would be for them to do. They can, and obviously I'm going to take a guess, they can choose how they want to participate. They can be a customer, or maybe they want to be a mompreneur like you are, right? And they could find out more
That's
about how
right.
that works too. So that's awesome. When they come to your site, are there information links, or are there things on there that can give them some background about gut health?
Yeah, that's our company website. And
Okay.
so I'm mostly, if they wanted to message me, for example, you can message me through Instagram.
Okay.
My handle is at totally gutsy. So all one word, TOTALLYGUTSY.
I love it.
Um, and
We'll have
so
that in the show notes too. That's great. Totally gutsy. That's awesome.
yes, I mean, that was another thing, navigating. I had no social media before, except to be able to be on groups. And so that's been a growth experience for me. But yeah, they can certainly message me through there. The company website does have different resources you can find. For example, if a parent did want to find more information about our products and they wanted to take their information sheet, the product information sheets are on our website. I would
Great.
definitely encourage a parent to not only take that information sheet to their doctor, but also even to their pharmacist, because at best, what I found is a doctor might, because they're not necessarily, they haven't had a lot of training in this area. The best reaction might be like, well, I don't think you really need this, but I guess it's okay. Or the other spectrum is like, you don't need this. There's live bacteria or something like that, which live bacteria is in yogurt too. So, because it's a probiotic. But if you take it to your pharmacist, the pharmacist would be able to look at the ingredients and know with the medications, if your child has medications.
Right.
And there are so many great, I think with direct sales in general, the quality of the products you're going to find is much higher than what you would find over the counter, even at the big stores. I love my stores that have the membership, and I enjoy using my membership at them. But the direct sale products, there's many. But I think what I've just enjoyed is the simplicity of our products, that we focus not only on the probiotics and the gut microbiome, but then also inflammation. And our products bring down inflammation. So for example, myself, as a mom, I had 6 kids. This is one thing that I've just been less bloated. The funny little story, I would go walking with my husband. My husband, when he stops working out, he loses weight. Okay, this is not fair, but it happens. He's the same weight as when we got married. And so I would go walking with him and I would just notice like, man, I would just be discouraged because my shadow was so much bigger than his. And just I've thought, but I know I'm like, I would just get frustrated because I was trying to be very healthy. A little side story with after having Johan, I was walking and we had 4 kids in 5 years, and that was very challenging, but beautiful. And I was walking outside. Johan was a couple of months old, and all of a sudden I hear a snap. And what happened is that my bone in my foot just broke. And I was losing calcium in my teeth. It turned out that I had osteopenia, and I could tell you when it was going to rain. I felt very achy. And long story short, I have gluten intolerance. And so with this, but so I was making changes in my diet, but it still had a lot of inflammation. So I still have gluten intolerance, but my inflammation has gone down so much that I've lost only about 5 or 6 pounds, but I've lost inches on my waist.
Wow.
And I just feel better. I mean, we used to joke that I had a 2-pack because, my belly, like I'd never had a 6-pack, but I had a 2-pack, and now it's not perfectly flat, but it's just so encouraging. Like I feel better. I'm sleeping better. The brain fog is going away. And I have less inflammation. And I don't remember why I brought that up, but just certainly like it's been great to see how the different needs, each member of my family has a different need. And yet by focusing on our gut health, we're all making advances in our wellness, like, which is fabulous. We're so excited about that.
That is awesome. Yeah. And the body knows what the body needs. That's the amazing thing about the
Yes.
body. So that's very
Yeah.
cool. That's
Yeah, and
awesome.
that was another thing, because it's like, Lord, you made our bodies to be able to heal. Like, I know we live in
Yes.
a fallen world and things happen, but our bodies are pretty amazing. Why aren't we seeing improvements? What's going on here that,
Mhm.
it's one step forward and 2 steps back. So
Right.
that's something that we dealt with in the past, but we're seeing gains now.
Wow, that is so great. All right, well, we're gonna have your Instagram up there. We'll have your site up there so people can see you. And Monica, it's just great to hang out with you, right? And kind of and hear the great successes that your kids are having. And just so excited for everything and for you as well. And I'm really wow, just it's moving to see when you continue. Oftentimes we get done with one phase of our life and we're kind of like, okay, time for a break. And you didn't do that. You're like, I'm gonna take this. What's next? What's next? What's next? And how can you keep making a difference? So that's really admirable, and really acknowledge you for that. That's just awesome.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much, and thank you for all
absolutely.
that you do for our homeschool and the thousands of other homeschool families and schools. We so appreciate you, Mr.
Mm.
D. We really truly do.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning. So
Hey,
I love it. It's
awesome.
great. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in to A Plus Parents today. And Monica, thanks for making your schedule work today as well. And we'll see you next time on A Plus Parents. Bye, everyone.